Here's a brief but annoying message to let you know that you could have first heard this episode 9 months ago if you were a subscriber to our Iron Filing Society Patreon offering.
For the price of a pint and a St Clement's each month, you can get up to 4 episodes a week, 9 months before the rest of the world gets them. Early access to regular episodes, lots of other marvellous benefits, and there's absolutely no adverts or brief but annoying messages like this that will get right on your tits.
Find out more and subscribe now at tftimemachine.com/ironfilings.
Here we go, here we go, here we go, here we go, this is it!
This is Top Flight Time Machine. I am Andy Hot Body Dawson. Pow, pow, pow.
I'm Sam Nifty Delaney, so what?
Speaking of bodies, how is your body, Sam? Your body's been ravaged by COVID for the last week
my
or
body's,
so. How is it now?
My body's very much on the road to recovery now. Thank you for everyone's understanding and kind messages. It's been nice. And I think that, you know, it's if I've achieved anything through having COVID for 10 days and not really podding much, it's perhaps to remind everyone, when you're ill, fucking rest.
Just
and
rest, exactly.
You don't have to be like fucking at death's door, although fuck knows, I felt as if I was a couple of times. But like, yeah, sometimes, you know, you just like, I don't know about you, Andy, but when I was younger, if I got a cold, like in my 20s or 30s, like, if I got a cold, it wouldn't fucking cross my mind to not work, right? Just wouldn't fucking cross my mind. And I used to get up, get on the fucking stinking germ-ridden tube, go into the centre of London, pull fucking long shifts, then go out after work and get on the piss or whatever it was, because you couldn't face getting straight on the tube home again because you'd feel so rough. You'd have to fortify yourself. And that would be my response to having a cold. And then I'd wonder why the cold didn't go away for like a month. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you'd sort of try and work and drink your way through it. And, like, it never occurred to me. You'd think, oh, why aren't I getting better? Maybe I'm not taking enough of those really expensive fizzy vitamins that the ads on the tube tell me will fix me. Or maybe I'm not buying enough fucking Beecham's powders, right? All this bullshit that isn't even supposed to cure you anyway, right? And the last thing that ever crossed my mind was, oh, all you have to do, it's free, is just go and fucking rest in your house. You have the legal right to.
Try and get some sleep.
Yeah.
Sleep is key, isn't it?
It's free. Sleep is free. You can sleep on anything. Even if, I know times are tough, maybe you can't afford a bed. You can sleep on anything. Believe me, I have. I've slept in all sorts of different places, right? You can sleep on anything. And if you are curious about the way in which humans slept before beds were even invented, then you do well to look back to one of our first ever history boxes, which was the history of the bed.
The bed.
Yeah.
It was.
And I really enjoyed that, because there was a time when beds didn't even fucking exist. If you can imagine, there was a time...
everything we knew.
There was a time before John Lewis existed. So no one had anywhere to go and get beds from.
It made us reassess everything we knew about beds. We thought we knew it all. We thought we knew all about beds. Single, double, king size. That's it.
That's it. Oh no, hang on. You've forgotten bunk.
Bunk.
Yeah, the best bed.
Sorry, I would have classed that as single. Yeah, single, double.
Yeah.
So what was I saying? But sleep as well. Not everyone can sleep. That's the thing.
It can be difficult.
These days.
And you know what? I got a bit of insomnia during COVID, which then I read was a symptom of COVID. And you know me, I'm a fucking. I consider myself a professional sleeper. Anytime, any place, anywhere. That used to be the martini thing, didn't it? Anytime, any place, anywhere. That's martini. Well, this is how it goes in my life. Anytime, any place, anywhere. That's Delaney. But it's not talking about sex, it's talking about sleep.
Well, this is a thing people used to say, the thing about sex is it's the most fun you can have for free. No,
bollocks.
Sleeping is the most fun you can have for free.
Best bit about sex is afterwards when you have a lovely little sleep.
Yeah.
It's my favourite bit.
Because it makes you tired.
Yeah, all nice and sleepy.
Or at least it does the way I do it.
I mean, Just get some fucking rest. And I really appreciate everyone, Andy and the listeners, for respecting my need to rest. And now, look, I am not dead. I am better. And so it just goes to show. So it's just a reminder to everyone, get some rest and don't succumb to the pressure of the man who is trying to subtly discourage you from resting. Say no.
If you're listening to this, go on.
No, I'm just saying, say no, I need to fucking rest my body. That is my right. Yeah.
No, man. No.
No.
If you listen to this 9 months down the line for free and you're not IFS, then Sam's just had COVID for 10 days and we'd have probably forgotten about it by then.
Yeah.
But there you go. That's why we've just done what we've done for the first 5 minutes of this episode. It's a new history box, and we're looking at another piece of classic film archive. And we're kind of doing two of these at the same time. We're doing an Odyssey on a different one on a Wednesday, but we're now doing this thing, which is Sid James. And it's the world of budgerigars. And I don't know how we've ended up in this situation, but there's no rules to Top Flight Time Machine. We do what we want to do. And if you don't like it,
fuck off.
You're fucked.
Budgerigars are... I mean, when I was a kid, I loved budgerigars. I think I said I used to go to the pet shop. It was a thing to do. It was like free zoo, wasn't it? Pet shop. You don't get them anymore, where there's just animals in the pet shop. But my mum used to...
You go to pets at home. They still have a few animals kicking about near the back. Yeah, okay. Rabbits and such forth.
Well, this was there was one near Richmond tube station in southwest London in the 80s, and my mum would go, "Come on, this'll shut you up. I'll take you out that fucking pet shop you like so much, staring at them fucking animals," right? Like treating me like I was Roy Jr., right? And I did. There was a monkey with a big red ass, which was obviously the best bit.
In the pet shop?
Yep.
Fucking hell.
Monkey with a red ass in the pet shop. Wow. No one ever bought it. It was just there. Was it for sale? Was it just the owner's monkey, was it? No, I think it was on display. I think it was for sale, but I reckon the owner's attitude was, "No cunt will ever buy it, but it doesn't matter. It pays for itself because it's what gets people through the door." Yeah. People will come through the door to see the monkey's ass, and then while they're here, they'll end up buying maybe a budgerigar or a guinea pig, something cheap and easy. The monkey, all I've got to pay for is its food, right? Mm-hmm. And generally speaking, if a budgie or a guinea pig or a hamster dies, I just feed that to the monkey. So you see, it's what they call in business virtuous circle. A virtuous circle. Virtuous circle. Yeah. The virtuous circle of life. And
I think it must have had a price tag on it, but it'd have been like 12 grand or something. It'd have been affordable. Like a tiger in Harrods.
Yeah, exactly. That was a loss leader too. It was basically, that's what gets people through the door. And then when you're in there, you buy goldfish. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And the geezer's worked out, if he's turning over, say, 2 dozen goldfish a day, which I bet in the 80s when goldfish were really in, they were hip, weren't they? Of course. Then he was probably doing that at one point, that many goldfish. Although where they sourced the goldfish from, I do not know. Do you know?
Well, goldfish breeds goldfish, doesn't it? Wherever you've...
But were there goldfish farms?
When you go to a garden centre and they've got a big pond in the middle of it full of goldfish, the goldfish are just having it off all the time, producing new goldfish.
And then that garden centre sells goldfish in bulk.
Pet shops. Sells at pet shops and fairgrounds. And travelling fairgrounds.
Yeah. Interesting. I wonder whether we could get into the goldfish game as a sideline.
I think the future of this podcast is selling suits and goldfish.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not two separate companies. It's the same fucking company.
Podcasting V3.0 is going to be suits and goldfish. Get ahead of it.
Invite us to your next fucking podcast business seminar in Las Vegas and we'll do a speech all about it, you cunts.
If you fucking dare.
Yeah. But we'll want fucking paying, and we only fly first class.
Yeah. So, Budgies. Oh, yeah, Budgies.
Well, we had the Budgie Rescue Bureau recently, which was amazing. And then, obviously, Jeff Capes is a budgerigar fan, so we've touched upon that before. But this is the first like exclusive Budgies deep dive. And I don't know about you, but in the first few minutes of this film, I learned a lot about Budgies that I hadn't known previously.
I got a Proustian rush when I saw Budgies, because as I said before, we had Budgies when I was a kid.
Yeah.
We had Jock, who was blue. We had Mickey, who was yellow with bits of green.
Yeah.
And we also had a third Budgie, which only my brother remembers, who I regard as an imagination Budgie.
Do your parents remember it?
Nope.
You don't remember it?
They don't remember it.
And
I don't remember it. Just my
wow.
brother.
And what does he say it was called?
I can't remember now, because obviously it didn't exist. I've got no
I
recollection
feel
of
bad
it.
for your brother. That's the sort of thing that would happen to me in my family. Like, no one remembers fuck all, but I remember everything. And I bring up shit like that, and they're like, nah, don't remember that. What? You saying we had a dog now? Nah.
Yeah, fictional Budgie. I'll ask him more about that next time I see him. I'll bring some more information to the table. So it's, I'm looking at the video now, The World of Budgies. It's a great introduction. The music at the beginning is lovely. So listen to that.
Yeah, that's lovely.
There's a really crude edit there as well, where it just cuts. Starring Sid James, Philip Marsden, who is the Budgies expert in this, and also Patricia Burke, who plays Sid's wife or landlady, I'm not sure. But Sid's very rude in this. He gives everybody really short shrift.
Yeah. He basically, you have to think, what's the setup here? The setup is this, just to give people some context before we get going. Sid James is playing himself, maybe a version of himself. I don't know whether it's like got Curb Your Enthusiasm type vibes, right? But like, he lives, which I believe a lot of bachelors did back in the day. He just lives in lodgings full time. Yeah. Which I don't know about you, Andy. Something about that appeals to me, right? He lives in lodgings. It reminds me a lot of the house where Michael Caine goes to stay and get Carter. Do you remember? And he ends up having it off with that woman.
The landlady in the rocking chair.
What if I were to tell the police that there's a man with a gun in my house? You're not going to do that. Or really? What? How can you be so sure? Because I know what colour underwear you wear.
Very powerfully erotic.
Yeah. And there's a bit where he's on the blower to Britt Eklund and he's talking dirty to her, but in the style of Michael Caine, because that's who he is. Yeah. What knickers you got on? The frilly black ones, is it? Why don't you
you're
take
not wearing
them
them granny knickers again.
Go on, take them off and touch yourself. That's right, like I showed you. Right, and the whole time, then the camera pulls out, and his landlady, the Geordie Doris, is in the same room listening, and she's doing her knitting, and she can't stop rocking on her rocking chair.
She's overheated, isn't she?
Yeah, he's getting both women fucking heated up at once. Well, that's Michael Caine for you. I'll do it to two Dorises at once. Three
that's
sometimes.
The thing with this. It's the thing with this. Sid James is sitting there with his landlady, but he'll be on the phone to Barbara Windsor.
Yeah. Hello, Babs. Hello, Babs. Your old man out, is he? Good. Right, now we can start talking dirty then. What sort of bra you got on?
Is it peephole?
Is it the one with the tassels on the end of it? But yeah, so Sid James is living in lodgings, despite the fact that he's an established celebrity and he must be earning all right. He's living in lodgings because he chooses to. He could live in a house on his own, but his attitude is, why would I? I live here and there's a landlady and basically I've got a bedroom. I picture his bedroom just having a sink in it, quite simple. But then there's a television communal room, but no other cunt comes and sits in it because he's probably got a rule. No other cunt can come in the communal room when Sid's in there, right? And the landlady just fetches him his meals and his snacks and his tea and coffee. It's amazing. And anyway, so this is just setting the context here. He's living in lodgings and he's watching telly and there's a documentary on about Budgies. That's how the whole thing starts.
I'm just thinking about Barbara Windsor in her underwear there. I just remembered the last bank holiday we had. I messaged you, bank holiday Monday, says, I'm sitting with a cup of tea and I'm watching Carry On Girls. What a life.
To be honest, you were actually sitting with a cup of tea and a sausage sandwich.
That's right.
It was it was better than you even remember it being, mate.
Carry On Girls, of course, is the one where they have the beauty contest, and it is brilliant. I hadn't seen it for so long, but it's so good. And
I haven't seen that one for a while. I've got it. I've got them all on DVD.
Joan Sims' character she's trying to put a stop to the whole thing because it's terrible and sexist and all this kind of thing. And she's got a campaign, and she's got loads of these women who are obviously like, dowdy and down at heel and miserable and possibly lesbians. Do you know what I mean? But do you know what the campaign's called that she's running? Operation Spoil Sport.
Imagine those cunts writing it. Well, I've seen documentaries about the writer, and they're all quite sort of posh, aren't they? Yes, well, you see, I was thinking our next one could be about a girly show. What do you think? Yes, that might be good, yes. They sit in a room coming up with these sort of deeply toxic ideas, but they're so sort of civilised and gentlemanly in the way that they do it.
God.
Jalapeño. Jalapeño.
It's a great film. Kenneth Connor is a sinister, dirty mayor. It's really good.
I often think of Carry On Girls as a later period one, but actually, from the sounds of the cast, it's still
73, I think.
It's canon. It's canon.
And it's got it's the one where Bernard Bresslaw dresses up as a woman.
Oh, that's always nice to see. Do you remember when we investigated Bernard Bresslaw and found out that he was like in his 20s or something?
Why haven't we deep dived Bernard Bresslaw yet?
Yeah, because what did we see? We saw him with Sooty and Sweep.
Singing about feet.
He was doing a turn with Sooty and Sweep, wasn't he? And it was really funny. Yeah. And we were like, this is way after Carry On. This is like, we're in the early 80s here. He must have been really old. But he was like 29.
Yeah.
What about the ghost, Sid?
So this thing started. Didn't even start with Sid James. We've talked about Sid James who jumped the gun because it starts with Philip Marsden, who's the budgerigar expert, and he tells us about budgies. And their other name is undulated grass parakeets, believe it or not. They're the smallest members of the parrot family, and they hail from Australia, where they are almost all green. Now, as we know here in the UK, our budgies are not all green. What the fuck's that about? What's been going on? And as Philip Marsden tells us, 100 years ago, well, whenever this was made, 76, this will have been one of Sid James's last works. Because he died on stage. Well,
do you know what people say? This was his Black Star.
Yeah.
It was his goodbye.
Just before his death.
And people say that he knew he was going and he made this as a like there's a lot of coded messages in this budgerigar film that is like a goodbye to his fans.
We knew he was dying, but we didn't know until we look back. So we're recording this, Sam, on the day, the anniversary of his death.
Sid James's death. Really?
Sid James's death.
Wow.
He was on stage at the Sunderland Empire, just a couple of miles from where I sit right now.
You told me that,
Yeah, he was on stage at the Sunderland Empire. He had a heart attack on stage.
Right.
It was one of those things, is there a doctor in the house, etc., etc.
Yeah.
People laughed because they thought it was part of the show, but of course it wasn't because he was dying. 62 years old, and he died. And they say, don't know how true this is, they say that his ghost haunts the backstage of the Sunderland Empire.
Have you gone to have a look around or what?
Well, I haven't. I've never been backstage there before. I've never performed at the Empire yet.
One day.
But yeah. My son's done a few shows there because my daughter, because their drama club that they go to, they do an annual show at the Sunderland Empire.
Well, did you tell them to look out for Sid James's ghost?
I forgot to. No.
Your daughter would hate. I mean,
they've got no idea.
Yeah, your daughter's like my daughter. They'd hate. Like, I would try to keep it from my daughter about the very existence of Sid James because it's the sort of thing that will upset and offend her.
I think maybe my daughter's now come through that phase and she'd now kind of see it for what it is.
Right.
And would possibly laugh at it. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I'd have to try that.
I was watching that thing, the Gold, about Brinksmat when I had COVID, and I was in my daughter's room because that's where I was quarantined to, and she moved into my room, and she said to me, What was that? I heard you watching some. I heard you watching something about Cockneys.
The Cockney channel.
She
on.
said you were watching a Cockney programme. Oh, yeah, about Brinksmat, wasn't it? One of the great moments in Cockney, that was.
Cockney High Point.
But listen, talking of heart attacks, just
All
a
right.
quick one. It's not funny, but it's in my head now. My mate had a fucking heart attack Sunday. She's my age. She's my age. She's really healthy and everything. That's what we thought. And my missus goes, one of my missus' best mates, but a really old mate of mine. I went to school with her, and she's gone now. Guess what? My missus was crying. I was like, what's all this about? And she went,
Come on now.
come
Turn
on,
the tears off.
what have I done now? And she's gone, I won't say our friend's name. She goes, oh, she's had a heart attack. I couldn't believe it. I went, what? Where? She went, she collapsed in Sainsbury's. And I went, what Sainsbury's?
Which one?
She went, what? I went, which branch? My wife was like, what the fuck are you asking? Why is that your first question? I said, I don't know, I'm trying to picture it.
Yeah.
Was it a big one or a small one? Because I'm thinking at the bigger ones, they've probably got defibrillators and stuff,
Exactly,
haven't
that's
they?
what I would think, yeah. What's the procedure?
It was a big one.
Oh, thank God.
But yeah, the ambulance didn't turn up. 2 were cancelled, and in the end, she had to get an Uber up to A&E.
Fuck me.
And she didn't know at this stage she'd had a heart attack, and they got her in and they tested her and they said, yeah, you've had a heart attack. And she said she's still in there now in the hospital. She said it's like a fucking field hospital. Like that's what's going on right now.
Like MASH.
Honestly, that's like right now. They've run it into the ground on purpose, managed decline, and there's no ambulances. And if you go in the hospital, everyone's just in the corridor on gurneys and on the floor and whatnot. I mean, even if you don't believe philosophically or, morally in the NHS, even if you're like, well, I don't believe in the NHS, I think that, it's an uneconomical way to run a health service. Fine, whatever. That argument aside, right, you're still paying your tax for the NHS. Whoever you are, right, you're paying your tax for the NHS. You're paying tax at the same rate or higher in most cases than we ever were, let's say 13 years ago, picking that figure at random. But let's say, for example, 13, 14 years ago, when the NHS did have ambulances that would come when someone had a heart attack, and they did have plenty of beds and you could get through A&E relatively quickly, right? The tax is the same. So you've got to ask yourself, haven't you? I'm paying the same money or more, but the service is almost non-existent. So even if you don't believe morally in the NHS, you've got to be thinking, hang on a minute, someone's fucking having a laugh here, someone's mugging me off.
Yeah.
Sorry, that's got nothing to do with budgie cars, but you mentioned heart attacks, it came into my head.
The idea that the NHS isn't fucking being primed for privatisation is just nonsense. There's a book coming out about Boris Johnson by Anthony Seldon. It's written biographies of all the prime ministers pretty much for the last 30 years or whatever.
Yeah.
So he's a fairly reputable narrator, let's say. And I've been reading excerpts of it on the Times website, and the one that came out yesterday was that Boris Johnson asked Donald Trump not to talk publicly about privatising the NHS.
Yeah.
And there's the quote there, and he said, let's talk about it all you like in private when you're here, but we can keep it to ourselves. So, that's what the end game.
Yeah, but the thing is, that's true, and there is a debate to be had about the NHS. Obviously I'm pro NHS, but I'm not someone who says, oh, there is no debate about how it's funded, because the NHS is more expensive to fund with each passing year. That much is true, right?
Yeah, because it was set up for glasses and false teeth, wasn't it? Basically, in post-war.
Yeah, I mean, there's more and more to pay for. It's an ageing population. The NHS becomes more costly every year. And so if you say, I don't want to talk about the NHS and how it's funded, we just have to keep funding it the same way, then in the end that will run out of steam, and that will allow other people interests to move in. But the problem is that because the Tories know that it's so unpopular for them to talk about any other way of like funding certain services within the NHS. There's two things. One is that they are purposefully mismanaging it, which is a playbook that comes from America, and it's been done in this country in various ways, where you run things into the ground on purpose so public opinion turns against it, and then people are so desperate that they're willing to accept any alternative, right? Any solution, even if that solution at that stage is, well, we're going to have to invite private companies in to support us here, and people are going to have to start paying for insurance, right? But there's collateral damage in that, because in order to do that, which is only in terms of like laying the path politically for something they want to do, they're going to have to let people die. But
they don't mind about letting people die.
They don't care. It's to make the optics better.
Once you get that understanding that they don't actually give a fuck about people's lives or people dying, it becomes a lot clearer.
And the other thing is that whilst it is true that there is like an argument, it's not one that I necessarily agree with, but there is an argument for like, you know, a public-private partnership in healthcare, right, and other public services, because if not, you know, things become difficult to fund, right? Be assured that this government right now, and I only say this not on the basis of my own prejudices, but on the basis of everything we've seen them do, particularly during COVID, but throughout their 13 years, is totally in the fucking hands of vested interests and commercial interests, particularly American ones, the huge fucking healthcare conglomerates that have existed in the States for years. That's why Donald Trump's over talking about it. He's lobbying on their behalf, because this is a huge untapped market for them. It's their next big market. And all of these fucking politicians, particularly government ministers, are all fucking bankrolled, right? They're sitting on boards. They've got non-exec fucking salaries coming in. They're being flown around the world, right, the whole time by these fucking huge mega rich companies. That's why they have access to government. That's why these ideas are on the fucking agenda. It's all because they're fucking trousering money. Not only now, but even more when they get booted out, which they suspect they will do next year, right? They'll all have fucking jobs waiting for them at these fucking huge number of massively rich fucking private healthcare companies that are coming over from America and elsewhere. And so, you know, every decision's being made really by people who are on the make. They're all being made by decisions that are on the make. And if you buy the idea that any of these decisions in any sector, healthcare in particular, but education or crime or anything like that, are being made by people who have any kind of like fucking moral compass or even ideological objective, like beyond just fucking feathering their own nest, then you're a mug. You're just being mugged off. And it's not about whether you're right wing or left wing, because this isn't about ideology or politics in that sense anymore. This is about, there's a bunch of flagrantly corrupt people running the country who are making every decision on the basis of like the financial backers who fucking shape every single idea that comes out of their mouths. That includes fucking Sunak, who's already a multi-millionaire, but he's just playing to the fucking fiddle of whoever's fucking bankrolling him and the Conservative Party.
See, also that thing about flagrantly running down a service in order to suit your own aims. It's the same with immigration. They're not processing any immigration claims. So they're making it look like the hotels are full of immigrants and that we're being flooded because they're not processing any claims. People are just sitting tight. So it looks then that suits their agenda of we have to stop the boats. Yeah,
stop the boats,
which is a massive it's all that is a massive distraction from the fact that fucking a tin of rice pudding costs £1.95 now.
There's three things. One is it's a great distraction from the real issues, which is people living in poverty due to economic mismanagement and Brexit, right? The second thing is they've got actually, if it doesn't distract sufficiently, it can at least show people, it can give people an alternative explanation beyond economic mismanagement and Brexit, because they realised a couple of years ago that they'd gone way beyond the point at which they could keep blaming the previous Labour government for the economic problems, because they'd been in power for so long. So now they need someone else to blame. So it's like, it's classic that they can now go, well, we'll blame immigrants. That's that's been part of the right wing political playbook for fucking going right back to Hitler, right? And then on top of that, they know that if it becomes like they're behind on every single issue, but if it becomes if the election campaign next year becomes a bloody fist fight on who can be the toughest on immigration, they know they're going to win that. Because they've got a bunch of politicians who actually are quite racist, and even the ones who aren't racist, right? Because, like, for instance, I don't think Rishi Sunak is racist, right? And I don't think Jeremy Hunt is either. But they're like rats, these Tories. They'll say anything to survive. So even the ones who aren't actually racists will still be more than willing to use the rhetoric of racism in order to win votes. They really will. And then some of them actually are hateful people, like fucking Suella Benjamin, our Home Secretary.
So, that's part one of the Sid James Budgerigar assessment. And we'll be back with more of that next week. Hope you've enjoyed it. Thanks for listening, and goodbye.
Goodbye.